Okay, so I'm here with a 2002 Chevy S10 pickup. This is step number 2, or video number 2, I guess you'd say, and replacing the steering column. I'm also having to replace the ignition in this truck. If you haven't watched video number 1, you can go back and watch it. Or if you're just maybe changing the ignition out in your vehicle, and you have a key and you're just replacing the ignition, this video here will describe how that works as well. Kind of give you, if you didn't watch video number 1, give you a little background. This truck was a truck that was stolen. We recovered the vehicle, and when we did, this was the original steering column. The steering column, they had broke all the ignition and shift linkage and everything out of the column. We picked up a 98 S10 pickup truck, took the column out of it. With that being said though, the steering column in the new truck we bought, the 98, it did not have a key for it. So in order to take the ignition out of it, I actually had to drill it out. And I'm going to talk about that real quick and exactly how I did that. This ignition here is one I bought on eBay. I think it was like $16 for this ignition. Come with ignition and 2 keys. Kind of describe real quick how I got the other ignition out though. Please don't mind all the drill bits and stuff. I just got done doing this here. It took me a little while to do it. It's no quick fix, I guess you would say. Was better than paying the $160 that a locksmith wanted to come out and do it for me though. So first off, this is the ignition that was in this column here. In order to get it out, because I didn't have a key, I had to drill it out. Once I first started doing my drilling, I realized real quick that I wasn't going to be able to go through this plate. This is the main plate on the outside here. So I popped the plastic piece here loose on this one, took the plastic piece off, and it left me pretty much with this here. I simply took a hacksaw blade and took it off, and then was able to get in here, you know, kind of like that, and I was able to saw back and forth and was able to cut this piece off, because this is like a hardened steel, whereas this is a, you know, just a pot metal or maybe even aluminum. I think it's just a pot metal or lead or whatever, I guess. I'm not even sure. But it's pretty soft material, so you're able to cut that off pretty easy. Just cut it off, got it out of the way. Started with smaller drill bits, gradually got bigger. One thing to keep in mind, if you notice, this is kind of off-centered in the ignition cylinder, and the reason for that is because if you'll notice here, the ignition cylinder where the key is kind of offset. So keep that in mind when you're drilling. Would highly recommend not doing this and drilling until you actually purchase another one. As you can see here, I took and I measured my drill bits, put a little mark on it with a paint pen, so I knew how far back in to go. Only drilled back to this point here. Sorry for the camera there moving around. Drilled back to this point here, not to get into the walls inside of the actual steering column. I didn't want to get in here and booger this up any, you know, because I was putting another one back in. So just be real cautious about that. The way this key works, if you bear with me just a second, you put your key in. Once you put your key in, all your key lines up on these pins, and once the pins go in, this little metal piece here will actually drop out. Okay, and that's what allows the cylinder to turn, is once this, you know, the key's in, and then you're able to turn it. So once you get it drilled out, you want to get this piece here out. I had to actually take a Dremel. I'll show you what I'm using here. If I can get it to zoom in here. Maybe not. I just ain't wanting to focus for me, but you can kind of see it there. Using the Dremel though, and that bit, there we go. And using that bit there, I was able to kind of go in there after I drilled it out and and waller the hole out so that I was able to pull this pin here. And where I had drilled back into here, this piece it just fell out. It fell out into the center here, and at that point you still have to be able, you just get a flathead screwdriver in there and you kind of turn it, because if you notice there's a little tab right there. If I can get it to focus in, okay. And that tab, in order for the cylinder to come out, has to line up with this tab here. Okay, so that's another advantage to actually having one of these, you know, on hand when you're doing your drilling, because you can actually look at this and kind of figure out, okay, what's the best approach and in terms of being able to get it out. So for those that are just switching the ignition out, I'll kind of cover that real quick. For an ignition cylinder, of course, putting the new one in, like I said, you just want to line that tab up back there, and try to do this with one hand holding the camera, and it just slides in, and then see, you're in business there. Okay, so you know it locks now. Turn the key, unlocks. Okay, in order to get this out, and the reason that I had to drill it and it wouldn't just slide right out, in order to get these out, I talked about it in the previous video. Let me see if I can set this down and kind of explain to you exactly how that works. Let's see, can you see? Okay, right there, that should work. Okay, so in order to get one of these, say this is in the truck and you're just wanting to switch this out, and you have a key and maybe your key isn't working real well, and you're just needing to change the ignition out so you can put a different, you know, ignition in. The reason you have to have a key is in order to get this cylinder out, you actually have to be able to turn the key on. You disconnect your battery, of course, first, because you have to turn this to the start position. Once you turn it to the start position, this hole right here on the top, it's going to be the top of your column. You just push down inside that hole, and it pushes this pin here, which then allows you to take it out. Okay, so putting it back in, you just kind of push it in. Well, let's see here, let me get it lined up. Okay, there we go. So it's back in now. Okay, so once again, to take it out, this small hole here, turn your key to the on position, push in on it, and it comes right out. Okay, pretty simple. So if you have a key, it ain't that big of a deal. If you don't, somewhat of a pain. I think it took me about 2 hours to drill that thing out, but I was being very careful not to damage any of this here, because you damage this here and then you're looking at, might as well just go get you another column. So not too bad, pretty simple. It is time consuming. Just take your time and don't get in any big rush or whatever doing it. And hopefully with this, you know, having a new ignition, everything's going to work. Kind of did go through my wiring harness here. The wiring harness, the plugs are the same, but on this the main plug box here, you'll notice that this is 1998, and I'm not even sure what it is. I haven't went through a wiring diagram, but I am missing a pin here. It's just altogether missing that wire. Not real sure what it is. On my 2002 model, let me get it pulled around here. If you'll notice there, I have wires and pins in every one of them across the top here. So I'm missing a pin. I'm not real sure if it's anything that's gonna make a difference whether or not this truck starts and drives and turn signals and all that work, but I've got this column. I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in there. It's not that big of a deal to put it in. I'm gonna go ahead and get it put in there, and hopefully everything will work, and we'll just go from there. I guess I'll figure out maybe what that pin is when I have something that's not functioning properly. So hopefully it ain't nothing major, and I'll be making another video here in another day or so when I go to stick these columns back in, or well, the one column back in. Ain't no point in putting the other one in. It's busted. So okay, well, thanks for watching, and look for my next video.